Hey, I'm gonna tell you what, man. You guys are so damn tough. So damn tough. No quitting this football team. And 17, I don't know what play that was supposed to be, but you did a hell of a job. Put the ball down. That was good. Put the ball down. Hey, we didn't ride the wave, right? Ho. Hey, we didn't ride the wave. Stay here, right? Stay chill. Stay calm. Believe in ourselves and in one another. Victory Monday. 103, 1, 2, 3.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry.
Happy Monday. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. That was the Buffalo Bills at the top. Josh Allen just doing whatever Josh Allen needs to do, Jay.
Yeah, every time a coach speaks who's not Dan Campbell, it makes me long for Dan Campbell. Sean McDermott, I'm not getting fired up for Sean McDermott.
He didn't really have a plan there.
No. Josh Allen's better. Josh Allen carries some real gravitas.
Yes.
Also, by the way, Matthew Berry joining us from a hotel room far away.
Looks like a penthouse
City.
to me.
Yeah, it's very high up. We're glad that NBC got you in one of the good rooms, Matthew. But watching yesterday, what it made clear to me is Josh Allen's the best player in football. Fantasy football, real life football. I think that he stands alone.
The biggest needle mover, I would say, if you were looking for one person on a 53-man roster. It was a show in the snow yesterday, Matthew.
Yeah, proud fantasy life investor Josh Allen against proud fantasy life investor Joe Burrow. It was a house asunder here in Fantasy Life HQ in terms of who we root for. But Josh Allen, as you pointed out, Jay, is the man. It's his third different game this year with 35 or more fantasy points. Every other quarterback in the NFL have 2. I mean, like, it's just so ridiculous. It's his third straight season with 12 or more rushing touchdowns as well. Like, he was the number 1 overall pick in every super flex league. He was the number 1 consensus quarterback, rightfully so. He will be again next year. You know, and what's crazy about it, just to move it forward, right? Because we all know Josh Allen is awesome. We all know Josh Allen's amazing. He's going to lead a lot of fantasy teams to their titles this year. Is that for all of his greatness, I don't know that there's a pass catcher on this team that you really want, right? I mean, like, we'll talk about the tight ends here in a second, but, you know, Khalil Shakir, it's Shakir, not Shakur. I know some people get that confused, but Khalil Shakir has an 11% target share in this one. He's under 20 receiving yards in 3 of the last 4. He gets bailed up by a touchdown. But, like you don't feel good about starting him. You don't feel good about Keon Coleman or Gabe Davis or, you know, any of these guys that they're rolling out there. Even the tight ends. The tight ends had a nice game here because it's Cincinnati, and tight ends always have a nice game against Cincinnati. But, like, it feels like if you're starting a Bills tight end, it's obviously Dalton Kincaid, assuming health. But, like, Dawson Knox and Jackson Hawes get involved to an uncomfortable amount for somebody, you know, that has a Dalton Kincaid. So it's just, it's weird. It's weird. Josh Allen stands alone, I feel like.
Yeah, I think the thing with Allen and his greatness is that his ability to create outside of structure, it has ripple effects in the offense where he's not always looking for one guy. He's looking for the guy that is open because he creates so much time for anyone to get open. So I think fantasy, I still think Dalton Kincaid is the surest bet in this offense among the pass catchers. I think he's just the most talented guy, and he seems to have really built the rapport with Allen after a bit of a hiccup last year when he was dealing with injury. But yeah, outside of that, it's roll the dice. I will say one thing, bringing it back to specifically Josh Allen. Josh Allen right now is 15-1 on DraftKings to win MVP. People can talk themselves into Stafford, into Drake May. Right. Josh Allen's the most valuable player in football. He's been the most valuable player in football this year, I think. I think that he's a very good chance to beat Drake May head-to-head this weekend. That game is lined as pick. I think that Allen's MVP price should just be Bills win the division multiplied by the price of the Rams not to win the division, and that gets you to about 11-1, and I think that's what he should be, not 15-1.
Do you think, Jay, fatigue ever plays into this? Where it's like, we know Josh Allen's great. Yeah. He's always great, but we love the historical, in a sense, for him, season Stafford's having, or the rise of Drake May creating excitement.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's
These are human voters.
Yeah, I think that I think that he has to win the division. I think it's very hard to win MVP back-to-back if you're not going to win your own division. The good thing about Allen is that for him winning MVP, his success is correlated with just Drake May exiting the race. Because Allen needs to win the division, and if he does, by definition, Drake May will have lost the division, just won't be a candidate anymore. So So I think that Allen needs to win the division. He needs help. Baltimore probably needs to beat New England 2 weeks from now on top of Buffalo winning. And then you probably need Stafford to lose that Thursday night game in Seattle, which, that's going to be a coin flip.
Josh Allen's scheduled the rest of the way. They are at New England. They are at Cleveland, against Philadelphia, and then they finish the season against the Jets. So a tough 3 ahead, but Matthew, it's Josh Allen against anybody. There's no reason to ever doubt him.
It is. And what's weird is it's like MVP, I feel like as Connor, you were talking about, is somewhat narrative based. Like, you can put all the stats if you want, right? And, if also, again, like, you take Matthew Stafford out of the Rams and there's a downgrade. But you take Josh Allen out of Buffalo and the team's useless. Yeah. Right? I mean, to your point about just who's more valuable, right? And so, but I do think that because Stafford, just because of the way his body is, he's just not going to make, 45-yard runs in the snow, flailing himself into the end zone. Like, there's just kind of like a frenetic energy to Josh Allen that Matthew Stafford, even Drake May, doesn't have, that makes you sort of feel, oh, yeah, that's the MVP. He's laying it all on the line. He's leaving it on the field. And I don't know if that's fair or not, but I think it's a reality. Last thing I want to say about Dalton Kincaid here is just that, just taking it back there, is like, he was great, right? 18.5% target share. He's had 14 or more fantasy points in 3 of the past 4, but like, he's a part-time player. Like, he played 35% of the snaps yesterday. He's running 53% of the routes. He needs a touchdown to pay off. He was 4 for 41, and he gets you a touchdown. And given the state of the position, it's tight end 7 as we head into Monday Night Football. But like, I just don't want people to think like, oh, back in as like a top 5 tight end. Like, he's a part-time player who has got a decent amount of touchdown equity.
On the Bengals side of things in this game, in fantasy at least, Joe Burrow heads into Monday Night Football as QB3 because he throws for 4 touchdowns. Obviously, the interceptions at the end of the game kind of sunk them, but a strong day for Joe Burrow, and in correlation, Jay, a massive day for T. Higgins as well.
Yeah, I think Joe Burrow, if he's healthy, we know exactly what he is. This is an incredibly stable offense when Burrow is healthy, and it looks like he is. He just looks like Joe Burrow to me, and that's a real life top 3 at worst, top 4 quarterback in football, and it manifests itself in fantasy when he has his weapons. T. Higgins is a little concerning that he keeps on hitting his head and has been dealing with the concussion issues the past couple of weeks.
And playing.
Yeah, and playing through it. There was a couple scary moments yesterday with T. Higgins, but when Burrow has Higgins and Chase out there, he is a top 5 fantasy quarterback, clearly, and Higgins is a must-start wide receiver. Obviously, Jamar Chase goes without saying, and then Chase Brown, just his touchdown equity goes up so much when he has Burrow at the controls of the offense, and so he becomes, a legitimate RB1, I think, even if the efficiency wasn't really there yesterday. He still gets the 3 receptions, gets a receiving touchdown as well as the rushing touchdown. So with Burrow here, it just becomes a very projectable offense, Matthew, with 3 legitimate stars to go with Burrow fantasy-wise.
Yeah, obviously, Jamar Chase is, for him, not a great day, but I'm not really worried about that. Higgins going against a Buffalo Bills defense that coming into this game had been really good at sort of limiting wide receiver 2s as just a really impressive game. Obviously, there were a couple of amazing catches, some that didn't count, but still 30% target share. He's now scored at least 1 touchdown in 5 of the last 6. And so, Higgins is sort of right there. I'm with you. The concussion stuff makes you a little bit nervous here. But the other thing that's, I think, important about this thing is, like, you're always starting Higgins, you're always starting Jamar Chase, but Chase Brown, like Joe Burrow, honestly, starting with Joe Flacco and now continuing on with Joe Burrow, Chase Brown has suddenly become very, very viable. 18 or more fantasy points in 5 of the last 6. Since week 8, he's the 5th best running back in fantasy football. The one thing I want to caution you against with Chase Brown, again, similar to Kincaid, though, in the 2 games since Samaje Perine returned, he's playing just 62% of the snaps. Like, they like Perine. They like him in 3rd down. They like him in blocking situations. They were using him a little bit in short yardage yesterday as well. Chase Brown is still great. The touchdown was an unbelievable catch that, upon review, they're like, okay, yep, he did get the ball into the end zone. He made a great catch in the corner of the end zone over the pylon. But I think Chase Brown is probably more a mid-tier RB2 than the RB1 he has been with Samaje Perine back. I just sort of want to caution people against that a little bit. But yeah, Burrow is the tide that rises all boats. again, proud fantasy life investor. And good for him. He's going to continue. He's going to continue to play for the Bengals.
Jonathan Medici, always good to see him weighing in. Man, Barry really is in the penthouse. Let's go.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not in. I'm high up. I wouldn't say I'm in the greatest hotel. I'm high up.
Shots fired.
Strays. I think Barry is in Dubai. Yeah, raise the flags. It reminds me of Mission Impossible 4 Ghost Protocol, where Tom Cruise exits out. You remember what I'm talking about? Where
Love
he's
that
scaling,
flick.
scaling the building in Dubai. I don't think Matthew Barry has the athletic capacity of Tom Cruise in that film, despite being of a similar age. To be fair, Matthew, maybe you should kind of get in the gym while you're in that hotel, get the Tom Cruise body going, because whatever he can do, in theory, you should be able to do too.
Dubai, Kansas City.
It's going to take me a lot longer than one day in a Kansas City hotel to get in the kind of shape Tom Cruise is. Tom Cruise is, for my money. There are people who love him, people who aren't as big of fans. But Tom Cruise, I think no one will debate this. Tom Cruise is the greatest runner in movie history.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Watch any Tom Cruise movie. He always runs. There's always at least one scene where he runs, and he's just really good at it. He just looks like it's an awkward thing to run. Try running and filming yourself, and you'll be like, oh, I look weird. But Tom Cruise always looks cool running.
The way I would describe it, he is like a graceful Isaiah Pacheco, because there's a ton of arm movement, but it doesn't look cartoon-like. And also, people can say what they want about Tom Cruise. 1986 to 2004, Color of Money through Collateral. It's the best movie star stretch in cinematic history. I would hold up. Yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah.
I'd have to think through that. But listen, he is a movie star. There is no question. In an era where I'm not convinced there are a zillion movie stars, he is still a true old-fashioned American movie star. I actually think his Twitter, I don't know if it is, because I know for a while his social media bio was, at Tom Cruise, running through movies, since whenever he started, since 1984 or whenever he started movies, which I always think was pretty funny. Anyway, we like Chase Brown.
Nice. Good cap. Our next game here, sorry, Jay, Jacksonville dismantles the Colts. It might be time to stick a fork in the Colts. No. It is. As we see the leaderboard here, good day for Travis Etienne. Trevor Lawrence was very solid in this game, not chaotic like he usually is. He's had a couple nice weeks here, but man, the story, there's just no way around it. Poor Daniel Jones, he drinks for free today here at the Fantasy Football Happy Hour Bar. We are wishing the best for Daniel Jones.
Get better, DJ.
Torn Achilles in the first quarter. Jay, these are your Colts. The floor is yours.
It burns. You know what the saddest thing is, Connor, is that the drive before he tears the Achilles is the best that the Colts offense had looked for a month. Daniel Jones had a scramble where the previous 2 weeks when he was moving around, he looked like a statue. He's playing on a broken leg. He actually ran fast on a scramble, and it felt like the Colts were getting back to being the team that they were in the first 8 weeks of the season when they started 7-1. So just really sad for Daniel Jones. What a baller to be playing on a broken leg in the first place. And you just knew, you could see how much it hurt him when he's slamming his helmet on the turf. It's just gut-wrenching. So all the best for Daniel Jones. Hopefully, he can come back for next season and restore his career. But in terms of, for our purposes, fantasy-wise, I'll tell you what, Connor, there was the first drive where Riley Leonard, it's like, wow, this guy can move around. He's hitting first reads. Maybe it'll be okay. And then not so much. And then he started air-mailing passes, and it felt like every second pass could be picked off. So I think fantasy-wise, obviously everyone takes a huge knock across the board. And if you want to know, like, the impact of Daniel Jones, who, I get it. Daniel Jones is not Joe Burrow. He's not Josh Allen. But in terms of how the market has adjusted its rating of the Colts are 10.5-point dogs in Seattle. Like, if Daniel Jones was playing, that line would be like 4.5. Right. Like, Daniel Jones, in terms of at least the drop-off from him to Riley Leonard, the market is treating that as like a 6-point drop-off. Like, that's like Lamar Jackson getting hurt in the Ravens because of how important he is to this offense. And I think it says a lot about Riley Leonard as opposed to Daniel Jones. But what do you think Leonard can do in this offense?
And now they're 22-1 to win the division, which is just off the map.
Oh, it burns.
22-1. When you look at Riley Leonard, the interesting thing is coming out of college, he was at Duke, ironically, and then Notre Dame. But when he was at Duke, you watched him and you're like, oh, Duke found another Daniel Jones. He's a good athlete. He's got a big enough arm. but just a little bit erratic under pressure. The accuracy kind of comes and goes. Definitely a more athlete-first quarterback than a polished quarterback. So I think if anybody can tailor an offense around strengths, I think Steichen is really good at it. But it's just there's no way around it. It's going to limit their pass game to a degree, and teams are going to continue to try to sell out to stop Jonathan Taylor because that's their best weapon. With Jones, he can throw the ball down the field to make you pay for that. It's hard to expect a rookie in Riley Leonard to do that. And Malik Hakeem said, what do we do with Tyler Warren with no Indiana Jones? I don't know if this is the end for Tyler Warren. He's not my concern here. You would actually think Riley Leonard, with a week of practice, would lean on somebody like Tyler Warren a little bit.
Yeah, it should be short stuff, and he targeted Warren enough, even though Warren only goes 2 for 15. Matthew, my take would be that Tyler Warren now drifts into being like a low-end, touchdown-dependent tight end one. I think Jonathan Taylor is now a low-end RB one, and I think the hit comes for guys like Alec Pierce, who is now more of a flex type of guy.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, if there's one positive here, it's that when he came in, Michael Pittman got a 34% target share. So no other player was above 17%. So maybe there is hope for Michael Pittman as well in this offense. I think teams do stack the box against Jonathan Taylor. So from a guy that was a top 3 running back, I think he's still a low-end RB1, but I think you're still obviously starting Jonathan Taylor. And I don't know that you're going to have better options than Tyler Warren. Maybe Tyler Warren doesn't go down as far just because I think there's an argument to be made. I don't know if he's a touchdown-dependent tight end because I think there's just so many tight end twos that are touchdown-dependent. I think there is a path for fantasy value for Tyler Warren, even if he doesn't catch a touchdown. Again, more as a low-end tight end one. Just because, again, now without Daniel Jones, this offense is going to have to get creative, Connor. I mean, they were talking about the fact that, that if Riley Leonard got hurt in that game, Tyler Warren was their emergency third-string quarterback. And so do they do more Wildcat stuff with Tyler Warren? Do they try to Taysom Hill him a little bit, for lack of a better phrase, right? And try to just get more creative with this offense to hide Riley Leonard a little bit. I will also say the typical caveat that we always hear anytime a rookie quarterback, it's the same stuff that was said about Shedeur. It was the same stuff about any rookie quarterback, that a full week of practice where he is the number one guy will do wonders for him. Now, you don't love him. You don't love him playing Seattle.
The Max
right? Shades of Max Brosser.
It's the worst matchup.
I mean, it's just a brutal matchup for your first game here, but he's somebody that, and Connor, I mean, you tell me, right? But feels like he's the Timo version of Daniel Jones, right? As you mentioned, right, again, he can use his legs somewhat. It's not Lamar Jackson to Cooper Rush is my point. Is that is he as good as Daniel Jones? No, he's not. Is there going to be a learning curve? Of course there is. But can Steichen pare down the offense, get some packages in there that Riley Leonard can hit? They did move the ball in the second half. Was it pretty? No. And was Jacksonville ever in trouble? No. But it's not like it's suddenly he wasn't Zach Wilson out there. You know what I mean? He wasn't I don't know. I didn't think it was as incompetent as I get I get 6 is a big spread. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too optimistic here, Connor. I think everyone takes a hit, but I'm just saying I don't think the season's completely over for the Colts. It took a big hit, but I'm just saying it's not there's no way anyone's ever going to have any fantasy value. This is this is shades of Geno Smith, at the moment.
Right.
Geno
It won't
right?
sink them fantasy-wise, but it's just you already have a lot of mouths to feed, and it feels like now the pass game will be extremely dumbed down and limited.
Yep. Here's the thing, before we move on to the Jags, 2 last things. One, I don't think it's so much about the target share stuff. It's just that they're not going to sustain drives as much, and not going to be in scoring position nearly as much because the offense is just going to be much worse across the board. Secondly, you need to mention Anthony Richardson, who has been on IR since his orbital fracture and pregame against the Cardinals, with the same day that Charvarius Ward also got knocked out by a teammate, just a cursed pregame for the Colts. He is not being cleared for football activities. He was on the sideline last week indoors wearing sunglasses. The reporting has been that he's had blurry vision for weeks and it's getting better.
It's scary.
And Shane Steichen has said that, they're not ruling out him coming back this season. I just wouldn't be counting on it. Maybe. We just don't know with any clarity what's going to happen there. So, you should probably pick up Anthony Richardson if you can afford to, if he's on your waiver wire, just because there is upside there. But I wouldn't be counting on that, particularly not for this coming week, given that he still hasn't been cleared for football activities.
On the Jacksonville side of things, guys, in this game, very clean game for Trevor Lawrence, very in-control game. And I think the fantasy takeaway is, Matthew, Jakobi Meyers is the featured pass catcher in this offense.
He's been nothing short of terrific. Third straight game where he scored, but had a 32% target share. He was on the love list. He was on my 10 facts you need to know before week 14 as well. Since week 12, he's averaging 17 fantasy points per game. And I think the most interesting thing here for me, Connor, was not just that Jakobi Meyers looks good and clearly has a connection with Trevor Lawrence, but this was a game in which Brian Thomas also kind of ate, right? That, like, it wasn't previously it's been, well, Brian Thomas has been banged up and Parker Washington's hurt and, blah, blah, blah. But no, in a game in which Brian Thomas got a couple of deep shots and winds up 3 for 87, almost a 20% target share for PTJ, Jakobi Meyers still manages to, get this massive target share against a decent defense in Indianapolis. I know they had no Sauce Gardner, but still, I think I would be encouraged. Jakobi Meyers feels like a very safe floor wide receiver too. And signs of life from Brian Thomas Jr. in the now division-leading Jacksonville Jaguars. Jay,
yeah,
I understand you lost a bet. You have to now go buy dinner for Steven at the Jaguars bar in New York City.
They cook there?
There's nothing that's edible for human beings. Jakobi Meyers, he also, they almost had another touchdown pass that didn't connect, so he looked great. The thing is that the Colts, they doesn't have any pass rush whatsoever without DeForest Buckner.
Comment from Tim.
Jay's the problem. What? How am I the problem?
He needs to stop picking teams. I wish he would have never chosen my Indianapolis Colts.
Well, here's the problem, Tim, is that I'm not abandoning the Colts. I'm sticking fat with you guys for the time being. I reserve the right to choose a new team whenever I wish, but I will be sticking fat with the Colts. I believe we're going to get stomped by Seattle, but then I think that we can come back and beat the Niners on Monday Night Football, which is going to be a fantastic primetime game now. Riley Leonard against what's left of the 49ers.
Wow, that's a bold. I think the Niners will be like 7.5-point favorites.
No, I don't think they'll be that big. I'm counting on some Anthony Richardson returning equity.
Matthew,
can we get
here.
Ryan Tannehill or something? We can't have Riley Leonard going on Monday Night Football.
It's a tough scene here. The one thing I'll say, Jay, is Connor. It's worth noting that Jay also picked up Jayden Daniels in the League of Assholes, and of course he immediately, had
There's
a brutal
trend
game as well. It is. It's just Is there a curse of Jay? Because I think there might be.
Listen,
root for the Patriots.
I started Jayden Daniels, and I'm still going to beat George Savarikas by about 100 points. So it shows you where George's team is at the moment. Thank you, Jackson, Smith-Njigba, for your touchdowns. I love them. Jags, quickly, last night. Brian Thomas, just not a huge target share, 19% target share.
He's Alec Pierce now.
Yeah, he's Alec Pierce. And also, he was making some highlight catches, which good that he made them, but also not particularly sustainable. One of them might have been with one hand. Couldn't really see through my tears as a Colts fan. Can't recall. Producer Stephen, who could see through his tears of happiness, clarifies that it was indeed with one hand. So BCJ, it's good to see him with his swagger back as well. So there is upside there.
Part of the offense.
Jakobi Meyers is the guy you want in that passing game for now.
SEC man.
Question, but Connor, can I ask you something?
Please.
The more I'm thinking about this curse of Jay thing, I think might very well be real.
We have years of track record.
I mean, allow me to present some evidence.
I was on Ohio State Saturday night too.
Oh, nice. Great.
Yeah, you were on Ohio State Saturday night. But I mean, again,
we're gonna kill Ryan Day.
We've always for years we've always joked about. We always looked at it from Jay's point of view. But think about it from DeMar Hamlin's point of view. He literally came back from the dead. He was like minus 400 or something at one point to be comeback player of the year. And once Jay got on that bandwagon, the curse of Jay was so strong that a guy that literally came back from the dead
to play
football wasn't able to win the award. Joe Flacco off his couch was able to do that. He early on in the show's history, Connor, if you remember, Michael Thomas was making a comeback. Jay jumped on that bandwagon, and then next thing you know, he's out of football.
Yeah.
It's just he picks up Jayden Daniels, he starts him, boom.
Hurt again.
He get hit again. He plays barely a half. Has a brutal day as well.
Don't push me, Matthew. Otherwise, I'll become a Commanders fan next year. I like the signs of life in that team. It was a great performance on Sunday against the Vikings. Maybe I'll be a Commanders man going forward. We'll see how it goes.
Aloha Bricks. Pick one, the Madden cover curse, Barry jersey curse, or Jay's team curse.
Well, let me tell you, when we're halfway through the Seahawks beating Riley Leonard 40-3 on the weekend, Jay's team's curse is going to feel like the most onerous of all of those.
SEC man said, hey, all local New York City regulars, we should meet up at the Jags bar. I'm trying my best to make this happen. I know producer Steven will back this as well. All right, moving on. The Shedeur Sanders show. Great game for Shedeur, but the Titans get their second win of the season in this one on a failed 2-point conversion that was the talk of town for the Browns. But in fantasy, Shedeur is atop the board, 33.5 points. Tony Pollard with a huge day, over 28 points. Harold Fannin and Jerry Jeudy get going in this one, Jay. I think the real fantasy news or noise here is Tony Pollard going for over 150 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Against the best rushing defense in the NFL?
That's where it's funny, is that this wasn't even a good matchup.
Yeah, I feel like the Browns, I mean, this is going to happen, these strange end-of-season games. Like, why are the Vikings beating the Commanders 31-0? Like, why does that, like, there's weird stuff happens at the end of the year where it just felt like the Browns just weren't at the races on defense in this one, and Tony Pollard was able to capitalize, going 25 for 161 against the Cleveland Browns. Has the breakaway touchdown, of course. But to me, the story out of this was that just the fact that Shedeur was able to compile so much passing volume.
Right.
And I get it. Yeah, it's the Titans defense. If you can put up 364 passing yards in a game against any NFL team, like that bodes well going forward. Harold Fannin was incredible, has a great touchdown at the end and gets 11 targets, goes 8 for 114. People talking about this as the worst Heisman Trophy race of all time. No, the real story is this is the worst Offensive Rookie of the Year race of all time. So getting text messages about whether Harold Fannin can win Offensive Rookie of the Year. He can't, but the fact that I'm getting those text messages speaks to how poor that field is. Emeka Egbuka putting the cherry on the sundae there with the drop touchdown.
He can't win.
No, I don't think. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be Teteroa McMillan if he does anything in the final month. But very encouraging from Shedeur and Harold Fannin, Connor.
Yeah, it was. This offense, you could just see they just can actually throw the ball consistently. And Shedeur's he has a bigger arm than Dylan Gabriel. He obviously is a guy that's going to hold on to the ball and look for some shots down the field, for better or for worse. He's still taking some sacks, still turning the ball over. But in terms of fantasy production, he's not only elevating things for himself, but he's elevating those around him, Matthew, where, I mean, this was the most fantasy points in a game by a Browns quarterback since Josh McCown in 2015. 2015.
Yeah, take that, Joe Flacco.
Yeah, I mean, right? Didn't think I was getting a Josh McCown reference today, but I'll tell you this much. He's only the third. Forget the Browns, because that's kind of a cesspool of ineptitude. But what I will say is, it's kind of circus of sadness there in Cleveland. But I will say this. In the NFL, Shedeur is the third quarterback this year with at least 350 passing yards and 4 total touchdowns. He's only the third quarterback to have a game like that, at least 350 passing yards and 4 total touchdowns in a game in the NFL this season. So credit to Shedeur Sanders, whose passer rating has improved in every single game, working for 2-time Coach of the Year, Kevin Stefanski. Not everyone knows that he won that award twice, but this is a great offensive mind. And you mentioned Harold Fannin, right? He's top 5 among all tight ends in terms of total receiving yards this year. Since week 7, he's got over a 21% target share, second highest. Only Trey McBride has a higher target share since week 7 than Harold Fannin, who, by the way, had a nice game for me against Denny's Analytics this week in the league. We'll talk about that league more tomorrow. But anyway, I'm with you. Like even Jerry Jeudy, Jerry Jeudy got off the milk carton and had a nice game. Had that one big play. Still no club said. I'd like for him to get open, but what are you going to do? So anyway, I do think Shedeur is now. We'll talk about him sure more tomorrow, but I do think he is now viable. Again, it's the Titans, but still, I do think he's now 2-quarterback league viable, and you feel better about any of these Browns players, especially Judkins and Fannin, because the offense feels like it'll be a little bit more efficient here.
Yep. Just last thing, Kevin Stefanski, he tied with D'Amico Ryans in that vote and then won on a tie break, which no one knew existed, which was most first-place votes among candidates. But I actually think that we should give the award retrospectively to D'Amico Ryans after Kevin Stefanski, with the game on the line, ran a 2-point conversion, which was going to be like a reverse lateral play where Quinshon Judkins forgot that he was supposed to give the ball back. And so I just think it's going to be D'Amico's award now.
Take a hot-handed quarterback off the field with the game on the line. Interesting. All right, another AFC.
That was not his best moment. Not his finest moment. I'll grant you that.
The Steelers hold on against the Ravens. DK Metcalf and Aaron Rodgers back from the dead, finally throwing the ball down the field after weeks of failing to do that. We got to hear from both of them after the game on the Downfield Connection.
I think just us connecting at practice on Wednesday, Thursday, and even on Friday, the defensive scout team gave us great looks. We were competing all week at practice. And then, like I said, man, we're on all the details, all the checks, all the looks at practice. We were communicating all week. So yeah, I think it was just a perfect storm, for everything to just come together and for us to play a good game like that.
As you guys were talking about, we hadn't completed a pass, over 20 yards in a while. It took a shot. DK got it, and then he was kind of on one. But he was on one in practice on Thursday. And then he was on one on practice on Friday. So love that from our guy. I think he even ran down on a punt. So proud of DK.
I really don't like listening to Aaron Rodgers speak.
That was the positive sound.
Something gnawing about it. Yeah, we didn't run the sound, producer Stephen's call, of DK Metcalf hilariously commentating on Aaron Rodgers running in his first touchdown since 2022, where DK said that he thought it was a busted play, not realizing that Aaron Rodgers could still move like this. But look, credit to Aaron Rodgers. He played really well yesterday, and this could be the strangest division-winning season in NFL history, but the Steelers now minus money and solid favourites to win the vaunted AFC North. But look, DK Matthew has been very frustrating all season. He's had moments like the epic touchdown catch and run against the Vikings in, was it in London? Might have been in Dublin. But 12 targets, I thought, was the main thing. It's not so much, it wasn't that he just caught a bomb touchdown. He actually got 12 targets yesterday.
Yeah, you know what? I wonder. I know you guys are going to think this is an insane ego thing. I swear to God, this is not an insane ego thing. I promise you. Because there's plenty of stuff that is insane ego things with me. This one actually isn't.
Where are you going?
But last week, you'll hear me. Give me a second. Last week on the Football Night in America show, and Football Night in America podcast, we do this podcast that's, distributed social media. I went on a rant about the Steelers. And no, I'm dead serious. Hear me out. I went on a rant about this on the Steelers, and it got picked up a few places, whatever. And in the middle of it, I just talked about the fact that I didn't think their offense was particularly good, and that I didn't think they had any scary players, any players that scared you on offense. To which Jason Garrett was surprised when he said that, and he goes, DK Metcalf doesn't scare you? And before I could answer anything, Mike Florio says, not the way they use him. And I said, yeah, not the way they use him. I said, maybe if Mason Rudolph was the quarterback, because he's not scared to throw deep. But they don't throw deep to DK Metcalf anymore. Well, what do you know? So I know just Aaron Rodgers is the most hyper-aware quarterback in the NFL in terms of what's said about him and the team. I'm not taking credit for this. I'm merely saying that.
Nor should you.
Not an ego thing. I just wonder if somehow that got back to him, or if he saw something like that, where people were asking about.
I'm also saying it wasn't not me.
Yeah, I just got clarity from DK Metcalf. He said it never got back to him.
Okay, fair enough. That's fine. But all I know is, for the first time this season, for the first time in the season, he got 3 end zone targets. That's the most he's had in a season this entire year. Most he's had in a game this entire year. He had 5 different targets of 15 or more air yards. Also the most he's had in a season. For the first time all year, they looked for him in the end zone and they threw deep to him. They haven't done those things all year long, and what do you know? They end up winning. It's what they should have been doing the whole time. Aaron Rodgers is not throwing deep. It's for the first time he threw deep. I don't know why he did. I don't know what he saw, but thank God he did.
I'll tell you why. He was 5 of 7 against cover 1, averaging like 17 yards per attempt. The Ravens just kept playing a single high safety, and he's like, okay, nobody there over the top. Let me throw it. I think there was a bad decision by the Ravens, but they challenged him. Didn't think he would throw down the field because he never does. And he finally made someone pay, but I have no belief this is sustainable going forward.
Yeah,
I agree.
At Footballer 77, nor should you, in inverted commas. Jay should win an Emmy for that statement alone. Thank you, Footballer 77. I agree. I've been pushing for this Emmy ever since Connor loses it every year.
Good luck going up against Todd Zeal.
Todd Zeal, yeah.
Nobody can beat him.
Go up against me instead. Yeah, firstly, great clarification from Matthew that he does a podcast that is distributed on social media as opposed to non-distributed on social media podcasts. us.
Got picked up a couple places. That was actually the sneaky best line of the rant. It got picked up a couple places.
An insane tangent across the board.
Like it was a mom and pop shop podcast.
It's very strange commentary. Anyway, well done to Aaron Rodgers. Jaylen Warren's usage was a bit strange in this one. He's just not getting the touches that you would expect from a player who's tracking as he was more closer to mid-season. Kenneth Gainwell.
They love Kenneth Gainwell.
They love Kenneth. Everyone loves Kenneth Gainwell.
We said this over the summer.
Yeah, Kenneth Gainwell is
We've talked this for forever.
Yeah, he's like the Matthews Penthouse version of Samaje Perine, right? He's like a rich man Samaje Perine, right? It's like, why do coaches love him so much? Why does he get so much usage? But he's a little bit better than Samaje Perine.
Yeah.
I will say, on Baltimore's side of things, I understand it wasn't an amazing day for Lamar Jackson, Matthew, but he looked a little bit more like Lamar Jackson than he had the previous 3 weeks. So maybe there's some hope that he is trending in the right direction as we head into the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, that was the positive, right? The 7 for 43 rushing yards. He also gets a rushing touchdown, which was his first one since, God knows when, right? The 43 rushing yards were the most since, I believe, week 4 as well. So it was nice to see Lamar. He looked like 85% Lamar as opposed to 60. I mean, he's still not fully back, it feels like. That sack at the end was just brutal, right? I mean, like, you can't take that sack. For fifth straight game this year, where he completed under 60% of his passes. So I just, look, you're still starting Lamar, right? But you feel a lot better next week about, again, they play Cincinnati next week. So you feel much better about Lamar moving forward into the fantasy playoffs after seeing this performance. He's QB 8 heading into Monday Night Football. Normally you'd want him to be like a top 3 QB, but against the Steelers, given all the recent struggles, you'll take this performance. This was pretty good. And the biggest thing is he finally got Zay Flowers going, right? I mean, 8 for 124 on 11 targets for Zay Flowers as well. 33% target share. Zay had it going.
Yeah. I've never seen a receiver whose first instinct more often is to go backwards than Zay Flowers. Just
programming is great.
Just run forward when you catch the ball, Zay. Yeah.
Our last game, guys, is crazy game. The Packers hold on against the Bears at the end with the interception by Caleb Williams right in the end zone. Fantasy-wise, what's notable in this one, Jordan Love playing so much better the last couple of weeks here, Jay. I know you love that.
I love him.
Christian Watson was dynamite in this game. While Jayden Reed only had 9.3 fantasy points there, Jay, I thought his presence and usage on the field actually opened things up for the offense, notably Christian Watson.
Yep, they seem to make a point of getting Reed going early. The first play of the game was to Jayden Reed. He looked like Jayden Reed, which is the main thing. And I think that what this clarified, though, Matthew, is that the receiver that you want on the Packers is just very clearly Christian Watson. And I understand that he didn't have huge volume, but just his big playability, his rapport with Jordan Love, the fact that he's kind of been the guy who's been there, not all year because he was injured at the start, but in the past couple of months. And Love is playing at a really high level at the moment. I think he's going to win MVP, but I think he's a good chance to finish in the top 5. And Christian Watson seems to be the guy that he is most comfortable with.
Yeah, over half of his targets are in plays 15 or more air yards down the field. Like, they take those deep shots. That's not let's see. That is part of their offense. Jordan Love's not scared to do that. They are so effective at running the ball with Josh Jacobs that they can set up play action that way. They do a really good job of getting Watson mixed and matched. And there was one play that I saw, he's on a linebacker, and you're just like, well, that just ain't happening. You know what I mean? It was just like, all right, well, you're not keeping up with Christian Watson. I'm sorry. And so they're doing a really good job. LaFleur's doing a really good job of the play calling. To your point, Love has so far is the rule that proves the exception of the Jay curse. He has played above the Jay curse level to date. Now, we will see. They will likely lose in the first round of the playoffs because of Jay, but so far they're doing well.
On the Bears side of this, Matthew, in the second half it got better. There was really only one way to go, and that was up, but no Rome Odunze, and just hard to kind of lean on or trust anything in this Bears passing game right now.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, but Caleb Williams just hasn't looked good, right? I mean, he's averaging under 5 yards per pass attempt the last 2 weeks, right? He hasn't had a game with 240 passing yards since week 8. So it just this offense is designed to hide Caleb Williams, and to try to run the ball effectively. And, we saw it at the end of the game, Williams made some good plays. The touchdown to Zacchaeus was really nice, and then the touchdown to Loveland on the following drive. But then, that end of the play game that, either run it for the first down or, just throw it higher. It's just it's a offense that's designed to hide Caleb Williams, I feel like. And so you don't feel great about anyone other than the running backs in this one, I think, as long as Odunze's out. Feels like they just weren't ready for prime time. Tough matchup against the Packers. Give credit to Green Bay.
The Week 14 injuries we're going to be watching and tracking all week. Unfortunately for Daniel Jones, per Pro Football Talk, that is a torn Achilles suffered in the first quarter. Jayden Daniels re-injured the same elbow that he already injured back in Week 9. Geno Smith left the game with a shoulder in the third quarter. Tyrod Taylor left the game very, very early with a groin injury. Devon Achane did not play in the second half with his rib injury. I think the Dolphins are being cautious because any running back could have went off against the Jets yesterday. David Njoku with a knee. Zach Ertz with a very unfortunate season-ending knee injury. Darnell Washington with a concussion. We're taking our first break. When we're back, don't worry, we got our weekend warriors and your Sunday scaries right after this.
It felt pretty good. Normally you don't come in with too many touchdown celebrations, so I'm going to have to start coming with a little bit more in my pocket. But it felt good, the way we were executing on offense and just the ability to get in the end zone and some of that. I feel like I've mentioned before, we watch Tay every time we get in the red zone, but also the mindset he's put in our minds throughout the week is something that has definitely carried over to the game. I think the ability, how involved we are in the run game, the ability to run our keeper actions and stuff like that, but then also to keep a defender on his toes, or on his heels, the ability to continue to push the issue down the field, but then also keep connected in the run game, and it allows for things to marry up and for us to get open.
That was Puka Nacua. Yeah, you bet he headlines our weekend warriors. Him and Blake Corum might be the surprise here, but Blake Corum did the most with his 12 carries for 128 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Puka Nacua, 7 catches, 167 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jay, I think this is the best receiver in the entire NFL.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think Jaxon Smith-Njigba has probably had the better season overall, but if you just started the season again, give me one wide receiver, I'm taking Puka Nacua as well. I think the difference there is just his strength and the contested catch ability. There's a couple yesterday down the field where you just visually, your mind processes like, oh, that's going to get knocked out. He's going to drop that. And he just holds onto it as vice-like hands. So, yeah, Puka, not much else to say. Absolute monster. Blake Corum, I think, is going to be a bit dependent on these type of games where, if they won by 4 touchdowns, it was a blowout. They were doing whatever they wanted on the ground. But certainly, he's kind of getting into the Tyler Algier range, Matthew, where you can, for a backup, you can count on him much more than most.
Yeah, it's interesting that as Connor was reading some of the stats, I was just thinking to myself, he's basically Tyler Algier, where he's a touchdown-dependent flex, but a better shot at a touchdown most weeks than most guys in that sort of range. He's had at least one goal-to-go rushing attempt and multiple red zone rushes in 5 of his past 7 games. And so, Sean McVay is obviously learning to trust Blake Corum, on to ease the wear and tear on Kyren Williams. They do like to run a little bit more when they get in close. Now, this was a blowout game, and it was also a game that Devontae Adams didn't do much. They didn't need to do much with him, but still, I agree with you. Corum might be the most important insurance running back in fantasy football right now, behind Kyren Williams. But more importantly, I do think, similar to Tyler Algier to Bijan Robinson, Corum does have standalone value as a flex play that, probably needs a touchdown to pay off, but has a better chance at it than most.
Matthew, I think we've found the most important equation in fantasy football, and that's subtract Marvin Harrison, add in garbage time, and Michael Wilson is the best wide receiver in fantasy football.
Yeah, I mean, for those old folks in the audience that remember the Billy Bullitt to Drew Bennett connection over the course of the fantasy playoffs a number of years ago, that's what this is feeling like. Shout out to my friend Sigmund Bloom, who put out that reference on social media. Sig is totally right on that one as well. Michael Wilson is just having the craziest stretch. I've never seen an entire fantasy community root for something more than all of us are like, hey, Marvin Harrison Jr., just take your time coming back. Take your time. 3 games in which MHJ has missed, he's averaging over 30 fantasy points per game. He's got basically a 34% target share. He's averaging 12 for 148. That's his average, 12 for 148 over these 3 games. He's literally one of only 2 players this year with 3 different games of double-digit receptions, 10 or more, and 100 or more receiving yards. The other guy, the guy we just mentioned, Puka Nacua. Yeah, Michael Wilson, it's unbelievable. Now, they play before you think, hey, I've got this. They play Houston next week. They're on the road at the Texans, so this may be the ultimate, immovable force versus hard rock kind of thing going on.
Landed the plane. Nicely done, Matthew. Jay, on the Seattle side of things, Sam Darnold and JSN, slow start for Seattle. It was 6-6 at halftime, and then they blew the doors off Atlanta, and these guys really got going. Yeah,
I think it's a bit of a misleading scoreline because this really felt in the balance at halftime, and then Rashee Shaheed runs back the kickoff, and then it's curtains from there. But yeah, JSN, who was trending towards a little bit of a concerning stretch where he didn't do anything against Minnesota because they were double teaming him so often, didn't do much in the first half, but then really broke loose. And I think that with his schedule down the stretch, we're going to see more pass scripts where they are throwing. The Rams game in a couple of weeks on Thursday night will be epic. But yeah, there's not too much to say. JSN locked in, top 2 wide receiver each week. And then Sam Darnold, who'd been going through a shaky stretch, seemed to figure things out a little bit in the second half.
Matthew, Broncos Raiders, boring script, but RJ Harvey comes out on top with that script. 17 carries, 75 yards. Most importantly, he gets the touchdown, and he played a big part in the pass game as well.
Yeah, a target share of 17%, plays almost 70% of the snaps, which you like. 23 total touches in this game. That's the thing. The 6 for 25 in the receiving game is what you like. Now has back-to-back games with 20 or more fantasy points. They're going to need him down the stretch. And so more and more, Sean Payton is learning to trust R.J. Harvey. As we talked about, Connor, he leaves yards on the field, but every week he's starting to get better, and he's a locked-in RB2.
How about J.J. McCarthy making the list here, Jay, with the 3 touchdowns? Didn't have to do a lot in the pass game, but a feel-good game for the Minnesota offense.
Yeah, look, we've piled on J.J. McCarthy all year. Everyone has, so give him credit where credit's due. He didn't have to do a ton in this game, but he did exactly what he needed to do, which is great. Throws the 3 touchdowns, is hyper-efficient on a play-to-play basis. It's unfortunate that none of the production went to Justin Jefferson, really, but encouraging for JJ, a platform to take a step forward.
Sunday Scaries. How many times do you see a trio headline our Sunday Scaries? Well, we have to do that for the Kansas City Chiefs. Maybe this is more about the Houston Texans defense right now, which is an absolute chainsaw in fantasy to the opposition. But Mahomes, Rashee Rice, and Travis Kelce, all with ugly performances, Matthew.
Just absolutely brutal. I mean, the 3 interceptions for Mahomes. Now, I think his day looks different if Tyquan Thornton catches that long touchdown, right? It hit him as perfect throw, and just Thornton just makes a bad drop here. But drops plagued Mahomes and plagued everyone here. Rashee Rice has 2 drops, right? His fewest fantasy points and receiving yards in a game this season. Travis Kelce, fewest fantasy points in a game since week 2 of last year as well. And Mahomes, this was his fewest fantasy points in a game since week 8 of 2023. I think it was a combination of they didn't play well, and the Houston Texans defense really did show up. And so, we'll see how the Chargers do tonight. That's who the Chiefs play next week. Man, this is just a tough day at the office. I don't know that there's a massive takeaway here. You're probably all starting all of them, but, in the battle of who could win, Andy Reid versus the Texans defense, man, just as dominant as a defense as we've seen in the NFL in quite some time.
Maybe not a massive takeaway for the Chiefs, but Jay, maybe the opposite for the Bucs right now with Baker Mayfield and Emeka Egbuka. The drop sinks Emeka Egbuka's day, and Baker just hasn't really been good for weeks right now.
Yeah, I thought Patrick Mahomes had the greatest 14 for 33, 3-interception game in history last night. Baker Mayfield, though, on the other hand, his 14 for 30 game, you're right. He has not played well really in 2 months. He's dealing with an assortment of injuries.
Yeah.
Egbuka as well, just a disaster. Catches 2 of 9 targets, drops the lollipop in the end zone. So I don't think you can really start Emeka Egbuka going forward.
No. In the same game, Matthew, Chris Olave, good win for the Saints, but Chris Olave not a huge part of it. Just 3 catches for 30 yards from Tyler Shuck.
Had a bad drop. He could have come down with it. Like, if he comes down with it, I think his day looks a little bit different. The positives are he still had at least a 25% target share in 3 of the past 4 games. He gets the 5 targets. Again, they didn't need to throw very much. Tyler Shuck was really good and effective on the ground. And so, I think more a bad day at the office for Chris Olave. This is only his 2nd game with under 14 fantasy points since week 6.
Our 3 running backs to finish out the Scaries, and unfortunately these names have come up with duds way too often this year. Ashton, 30 yards. Breece Hall, 43 yards. Kenneth Walker, 29 yards. He actually lost the yard on a reception, Jay. It's just too often with these guys that were drafted way higher than compared to what they've actually had an output of.
Yeah, in Genty in particular, I just think there's no chance for efficiency in that offense.
How about this, Matthew, from the Foot Brawler?
Oh, no, Methuselah reference.
Remind me of the old Noah to Methuselah connection back in my early fantasy football days. Very well done, Foot Brawler.
You guys weren't there for that, but it was something to behold.
Lucky that you were there for it.
That'll be my 2nd fantasy league ever.
We'll take one more break when we're back. It's last call. We got our Monday Night Football bets after this. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the app and use promo code FFHH when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook.
The crown is yours.
The crown is yours.
The crown will be ours. It's time for last call. Let's take a look at the most bet Monday Night Football props on DraftKings. The public loves Jalen Hurts passing touchdowns at 1+ for the lovely payout of -317. Jay, what do you got?
I'm going to take Justin Herbert over 18.5 rushing yards. He's gone over this number in 9 of 12 games. Now, I understand he's dealing with the broken hand. I think he's just going to get in there and play like
Football
Justin
players
Herbert.
play.
Football players, football. Justin Herbert, I think he's going to have to be scrambling a fair bit away from this Eagles pass rush, even without Jalen Carter. I think he gets the 19 rushing yards.
I'm looking at the Chargers run game as well, Jay. I know it's the return for Amari and Hampton, so people are like, maybe we'll be careful with them. I'm going over 11.5 rushing attempts. He did this in 4 of his 5 games when he was healthy. I think they've been careful with his return. That's why it went even longer than expected. And Jim Harbaugh and Amari and Hampton, they're not going to be like, we have to. No, this is against the Eagles. There's no Jalen Carter in this game. The strength of the Chargers in this one should be balancing the run and the pass. Amari and Hampton, this is not a big number. Go over. Matthew, what do you like?
Yeah, well, listen, I think we all see this game the same way, Connor, because if Amari and Hampton is running the ball and Justin Herbert is running the ball, you know what's not happening? Justin Herbert passing the ball. So give me Justin Herbert under 31.5 pass attempts. He's gone under this number in 4 of the last 5 games. He's thrown just 20 passing attempts and 18 in his last 2. And then you think about Philadelphia, to your point. I think they want to slow down this offense, slow down this game, and try to run it, not let Philadelphia get the ball. So, yeah, give me under 31.5 pass attempts, especially with his hurt hand. I think he either runs it himself or hands off to Hampton. You'll see some Vidal as well. So under 31.5 pass attempts for Herbert is my best bet for tonight.
Let's take a look at Matthew's top players here for Eagles Chargers. Of course, the quarterbacks involved in this one, and then we'll see if Saquon Barkley can finally get going in crunch time here, Matthew.
Yeah, that would be great, obviously. I definitely need Saquon to get 3 points to survive in a guillotine league, so I think I've got my shots there. And I also need 25 points from Ronnie Gadsden to win a playoff game. Don't get me started on that particular league. That was Tyrod killing me and no Drake May or Traven Henderson. Playoff starting too soon is what it is. Well, listen, that music means you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I'm back in studio tomorrow. Good luck with your Monday Night Miracles tonight. For Connor and Jay, I'm Matthew. Peace out from Kansas City.